Well, hello, and welcome to another edition of the devotion. And this is going to be focusing once again on spiritual warfare from Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 to 20. And I may be backtracking just a little bit, but one of the things is, as I indicated a little bit in yesterday's devotion, I kind of struggled yesterday, and I was kind of getting beat up just a little bit. Doubts assailed me. There's a joke about pastors who want to resign every Monday morning, and I've never been that pastor. I've always enjoyed what I'm doing. I've always felt fulfillment in it, and I've always just felt a blessing to be able to serve. And so there's all of that. But yesterday was one of those days that, I could have thrown in the towel, and I didn't, because I was asking God to empower me and enable me and help me to stand. But one of the things that I just kind of wanted to go back and say, that the problem is that we wrestle against an invisible enemy. We wrestle against an enemy that gets inside our head and inside our heart and in our mind. We wrestle against an enemy that his lies are just insidious. They sneak up on us, and we have to be really careful that we're paying attention to what's going on. So who is the enemy that we're wrestling against? It's Satan. It's the devil. It's our adversary. It is those spiritual forces of evil. So I just kind of wanted to go and back up a little bit and look at that once again and just really kind of focus on that. So in Ephesians 6, 10 to 20, it says, "Finally be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers and against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. Stand, therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one." That's what I was doing yesterday. "And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying at all times in the Spirit with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints and also for me, that words may be given to me in opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that I may declare it boldly as I ought to speak." Once again, I want to grab the message and remind us that he says Eugene Peterson says, "Be prepared. You're up against far more than you can handle on your own." Isn't that the truth? That we have to be able to stand up to everything the devil throws our way, because this is for keeps. It's a life or death fight to the finish against the devil and all his angels. The Passion Translation translates this in another way: against the evil strategies of the accuser. And your hand-to-hand combat is not with human beings, but with the highest principalities and authorities operating in rebellion under the heavenly realms, for they are a powerful class of demon gods and evil spirits that hold this dark world in bondage. So that's what we're up against. It's a battle, it's a struggle, it's a fight. It's not easy, and our adversary is Satan, and Satan comes to us in a lot of different ways. He comes to us to trip us up, to accuse us, to defeat us. And yesterday he was just telling me, why are you bothering? Why do you do this? Nobody cares. And he was saying that you're not making any difference and everything. And sometimes he comes through people, but honestly, most of the time I think he comes to us through our own thought life, and we have to be prepared to take every thought captive. And I'm gonna go to that passage in just a second. But in Ephesians 4:25, earlier in this same book, this same letter, Paul says, "Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another." And this is where I think it's really important that we stay in community and we stay talking to one another. I know it's hard with COVID-19, and you're saying, well, Pastor, just open the church and get it over with. And we will be doing that. I don't know when, but we will be opening the doors of the church again. But we do need to be hearing from each other, and we need to be speaking the truth to each other and reminding each other that we're in a battle, and that we're not fighting against people, but we're fighting against a far more insidious and difficult enemy. Then he goes, "Be angry and do not sin, and do not let the sun go down on your anger, and give no opportunity to the devil." You really have to be careful that you are constantly taking the thoughts captive that run through your mind and making them obedient to the Lord. And so if we are going to do this, I wanted to take us to 2 Corinthians chapter 10. And in verse 1 of chapter 10, Paul says, "I, Paul, myself entreat you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ, I who am humble when face to face with you, but bold towards you when I am away. I beg of you that when I am present, I may not have to show boldness with such confidence as I count on showing against some who suspect us of walking according to the flesh. For though we walk in the flesh, we are not waging war according to the flesh." So once again, though we walk in the flesh, though we are physical, human, material, embodied beings in this material world, we are not waging war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ, being ready to punish every disobedience when your obedience is complete. There's some hard stuff in there. Paul is hurting and he is chastising the Corinthians, but one of the things that I want to remind you of is that even there, he's acknowledging that, hey, my fight isn't with you guys, and your fight's not with me. We are in a battle, and our battle is not against the flesh and blood, as he says in Ephesians, not against people. Though we walk in the flesh, we're not waging war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. So the divine power to destroy strongholds comes from the things that God has given us, the weaponry that God has given us. He gives us truth, and we can focus on that. He gives us righteousness. He presents the good news of Jesus Christ to us and of his love. He gives us a shield of faith to believe in him and to move forward in him that will overcome the doubts of the enemy. He gives us a helmet for salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. Once again, having to make sure that we stay close to God and in his Word, and calling upon him, praying diligently. And so in James, another great passage about this fight and who we wrestle against, it says, "Submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Draw near to God and he will draw near to you." As I said yesterday, we can't win this battle on our own. We can't stand in our own strength and hope to be victorious. But in Jesus Christ, we can stand. In him, we can make it. We have to humble ourselves before him. Or as 1 Peter 5:8 says, be sober-minded and be watchful. For your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of sufferings are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. And that's true. I was just reading a news article today, and there's, a child in India that was hacked to death simply because he gave his life to the Lord. He walked as a Christian for 3 years, and for that he was put to death. His battle wasn't even against the people that destroyed him. His battle was against his adversary, the devil, who seeks to destroy us. And so as we go forward, I just want you to be mindful that Satan is wily and he's crafty, and he gets in our head and he causes us doubts, and we have to keep turning to God. We have to keep turning to his word. We have to keep listening to the truth instead of his lies, and stay dressed in his armor. So that's what I just want to remind you of today, is the battle can be difficult, but Satan's already a vanquished foe. And while he can do us great harm and he can make us doubt, and we can end up doing stupid things if we follow him, he's already defeated, and God will reign supreme. Jesus Christ already has been given all authority in heaven and on earth, and he stands with you. He says he is with you always, even to the end of the age. So don't give up. Don't give in. Keep trusting. Keep fighting. Keep standing. And you will be victorious. God will help you make it through. God bless you. Stand firm today and every day.